my little yarnivores and spiderettes, Fiber Spider back again with another tutorial just for you. And today I'm going to show you how to weave one of these really simple, cute little squares. A word of caution, they are very addictive. Once you do one, you're going to want to do another one in no time. And they're so quick and so simple. Now, this was done on the Skipper Loom by Blue Butterfly, and this is the one that I'm going to be using for today's demonstration. And the reason why is because there are fewer pegs on this one. Also, it'll be a lot easier for you to see. Now, I also have the Zoom Loom by Shacked, and this one is much more geared for using weight of 3 yarn. And also there are a lot more pins and it's a bit of a finer gauge, so I feel that this one would be a lot easier for the sake of this tutorial. Now, if you look at the alignment of the pins, it is the same number. See down here, we've got 4, and we've got 4. And then at the end, we have a little corner. At this end, we have a little corner. So the pins themselves are in the exact same configuration, except on this one, there are just more of them. And so these squares work up a lot faster with this one. So we're going to be using this loom, and I'm going to give links in the description box down below as far as my experience with both of these. And also, you're going to need a weaving needle, and this is a 6-inch needle. I got a 5-inch when I purchased this loom, and I got this weaving needle when I purchased the Zoom Loom. But I like using this needle with this loom, so I'm hybridizing a bit. And you can use, for this loom, any worsted weight yarn that you want. I'm just using some Red Heart Super Saver, and I'm using a variegated yarn for this demonstration because I feel that it'll be a lot easier to see what we're doing, and that certainly helps. And so without further ado, let's get started. All right, one last thing before we start doing our warp threads. The difference between this loom and this loom is that this one has a little notch, which is great as far as being able to catch the yarn and then start doing your warping. The loom that we're going to be working on today does not have that notch. However, there is a quick fix, and I'm going to show you how to do that. Now, you could use a slip knot, say on this first nail here on the left. However, I found a way that works even better, for me anyway. So, what you do is you grab your yarn, okay, and you pull it up, the tail end, you pull it up through your loom, okay, and you place the yarn in between the first 2 nails, okay, and you're going to want to leave a tail of, I would say, 6-8 inches or so, because we're going to weave that end in later. Then we're going to start our warping. Now, to do the warping, we're going to go in between the nails right over here, and we're going to tug just a little bit, and that is going to secure our yarn end. Now, it will come loose, don't get me wrong, it will come loose. However, it is a lot easier to deal with later, and we'll get into that, okay? So going straight up in between, going straight up, okay, and we're not on the 3rd warp yet, so don't worry about that. So what you do is you bring your yarn down over those 2 nails, okay, and then you bring your yarn all the way down in between nails 2 and 3 at the bottom. Then you bring your yarn up in between nails 1 and 2, and then go over 2 nails at the top, bring it down, again going in between nails 1 and 2 of the next 3 group. And I'm sorry for my camera work, but it's a little difficult to film because I've got my camera right in front of me. And so again, wrapping around those 2 nails, going up, go in between nails 1 and 2, going over those 2 nails, bringing it down, going in between nails 1 and 2, okay? And you're just going to proceed in this fashion for the rest of your first layer of warping, going in between the first 2 nails, bringing it down, in between those first 2 nails, and then bringing it back up, going in between those first 2 nails. And now, see, we've got 4 nails. You're just going to go over the next 2 nails, just as we have been, bringing it down in between those 2 nails, like so. And you can see we have a little cute little helpful burnt-in arrow. And we're going to turn our loom, and we're going to follow that arrow. It's a little hard to see, but see, we're going to follow that arrow exactly, okay? And also, when you're doing the warp, you don't want it to be super violin string tight, but you do want it to be tight enough that you don't have floppy loops, okay? So again, we're going to be doing warp 2 exactly the same way that we did the first warp, okay? So we're going to go around these 2 nails at the bottom, like so, bringing it to the top, going in between nails 1 and 2, wrapping around those 2 nails left over on that 3 group, going down to the bottom, going in between nails 1 and 2, wrap around those 2 nails at the bottom, in between 1 and 2 at the top, wrap around those 2 going down, going in between 1 and 2 at the bottom, and so on and so forth for the rest of this layer of the warping. And also, this is rather tricky because I'm used to doing this on my lap, not holding it up like this. But I'm really going to try to do the best I can, because I know that some of the other instructions, they can go by really, really, really fast, and I want to be nice and thorough and so forth, okay? So now, this would be going in between the first 2 nails. There isn't a third nail here, but that's okay. So we're going to follow the arrows once again. You can see that little arrow there. So we're going to turn the loom again. Now for the third warping, it's a little bit different. We're now going to be going in between the first 2 nails, like so. And then when we get down to the bottom, okay, when we first started, we went over the first 2 nails, and then we wrapped around the second 2. Now what we're doing is we're going to fill in the gaps, so to speak. So now we're going to wrap around these 2 middle nails of the 4. And, sorry. There we go. It's a lot easier if I have this laying down, trust me. So around those 2 nails in the middle, then going back up, and then going around the first 2 nails, leaving the third one on his own, because we already did those, okay? So then we go back down, and we do the first 2 nails at the bottom, going back up, first 2 nails at the top, going back down, and then the first 2 nails at the bottom, then the first 2 nails at the top, and then the first 2 nails at the bottom, and then the first 2 nails at the top. All right, and that is a complete a complete warping of the first 3 layers of the warp. And then we're going to get into the actual weaving. Now, as you can see, this end that we started with, it got a little bit loose. That's okay. You can pull on the yarn and pull the tail end a little bit to make it a bit more tight. That is okay. And you're going to have to do that probably a couple more times as you go on. That is okay. And because we're just going to weave in this tail end a little bit later. You can, of course, also create a really long tail of this end here, and then you can use this later to stitch your squares together. However, I find that when you do that, you end up with a lot more tails than you actually need. That being said, we're going to continue on with creating the weaving strand. And to do that, all you need to do is to take your yarn and wrap it around the outside of the nails 4 times. So we've got 1 wrap and 2 wraps and 3 and 4. And then you can cut your yarn. Easy as that. Now, if you're using the Zoom Loom, you might want to do 5 or 6 wraps, but I find that with this loom, doing 4 wraps gives you, a sufficient tail, and then you simply thread that tail onto your weaving needle, and you're good to go. So now I'm going to show you how to do the actual weaving. All right, so to do the weaving, what we're going to do is we're going to start, I already threaded my needle, and we're going to undo the yarn that we wrapped around the entire exterior of the pins. So now to start the weaving, again, I know that this end is loose. That is okay. That is all right. We will definitely be able to tighten that up after the first pass. So we're going to be doing an over, under, over, under, over, under weaving. So to start with, we have to go over this first loop here. So we're going over that one, and then we're going under the next one, like so. See, I went over that first one, under the next, and we're going over this light blue one, under the dark, and then over the gray, under the blue, over the gray, under the blue, over the gray, under the blue, over the gray, all the way across, until we reach the end. And we are going to be doing this, I think I'm not going to be doing all of this on camera, but we are going to be doing this all the way across until we reach the very end. So you can see it's over, under, over, under, over, under, and ending with an under, okay? Then I find it helps if you turn the work, if you turn your loom, okay? Also, I find that it helps if you hold down this tail of yarn here when you're pulling through, at least initially, okay? So then you pull your needle all the way through, and pull your tail, and so you can see that the yarn, the loop of yarn, is not going anywhere, and you don't have to worry about it flying off the nails. If you hold it down, it won't go anywhere, and then, boop, and you can cinch that up, not too terribly tight, but tight enough where it's not going to go anywhere. Okay, and now we have the weaving to do in the opposite direction. And again, it does help if you take your original tail end and you just give it a little tug. You don't want it to be too loose. And then we're going to be doing the over, under in the opposite direction. And we're going to keep doing that backwards and forwards for the rest of the square. So again, going over this white loop, so over that one, and then, sorry, it's so much easier to do this on your lap, trust me. So underneath the blue one, then over, and then underneath that gray one. You see? I'm just going over, under, over, under, over, under. All right. And so you just keep doing this over, under fashion for the rest of this row. Also, another thing that helps is if you push down on your fabric and then push down on your needle, push down on the fabric, push down on the needle, push down on the fabric, push down on the needle. When you need to go under, if you push down on the needle, and then when you need to go over, push down on the fabric. It really, really helps, especially if you're using the Zoom Loom. It helps very, very much. And so we ended on and under. And so again, turn your loom and just hold your yarn. Let's see, where's my tail? I lost my tail. There's my tail. Right there. Okay. So it helps if you hold down these loose bits of your loop, your working yarn, as you're pulling across. I do find that it helps. Okay. Give it a little tug. And then again, you can cinch up your first line here. No problem. And another thing that I find helps is if you find your weaving threads to be a little bit wonky, what you can do is take the eye end of your needle and you can just shift your threads, because we're going to be working this line here. And so that opens it up a little. I wouldn't suggest using the needle tip, only because it'll get stuck on the threads. So if you use the eye, which is a nice blunt tip, and that way you can work an opening with the blunt tip. Okay? So I'm going to do one more for you. And so again, it's over this first loop, and then under the light one, and over, and under, and over, and under, and over, and under, and over, and under, all the way across. It's that simple. Another thing that you do want to be careful of, especially if your weaving needle is sharp, to be sure that when you're going over and under, that you catch all of the plies of your yarn, and that you're not going actually through the yarn, through the plies. That does not look very nice, and then it's very difficult to fix afterwards. So I ended on and under once again, and then you turn your loom, and you just put your thumb down gingerly and pull the yarn all the way through. And that's really just so that, like I said, the working yarn loop that you have at this end doesn't go flying over it just holds them in place. And there you go. So we've got a little bit of weaving. Now also, yes, this does look really, really open right now, but when you take it off the loom, it sort of shrinks down a little bit. I mean, yes, it's still a little bit open, but not as much so as it is when it's on the loom. Okay? And so what I'm going to do off camera is I'm going to go back and forth until I reach the end, and then I'm going to show you how to finish off. Okay? So as a recap, I'm going to be going over this loop, then under the next, and so on and so forth, and then when I get to the end, I'd be going over this loop here, and then under the white, and so forth, until you reach the end. And I'm going to do the last 2 passes with you on camera, I think. Okay? I will be right back. All right, so I did a couple more passes, and now I'm up to the last 2, which I said I was going to do for you. So now, again, going over the gray, and then under the light gray over the blue, all the way to the end. And the last row looks a little bit weird, so I really wanted to be able to do that on camera with you. All right, and then making sure it goes around the nail, like so. Okay, turn the work. Ah, see, I didn't hold. There we go. See, it pays to follow one's own advice, right? All right, so there we go on that side. All right, now for the last one, again, it looks a little bit weird because we have a bit of a triangle shape. That is okay. It works exactly the same way. So again, we're going to be going over this blue one, and then under that next one, and over. It's the exact same principle. It works exactly the same. And this is the last pass for the weaving. And like I said, I cannot apologize enough for the shakiness, but it is really, really much more stable and easier if you're working on your lap, trust me. And so I finished the last pass. And just going to pull all the way through. A little tug. Shaboom. All right, and then you take your needle off. And now we have this end where we first started. All you have to do is just give the yarn a little bit of a tug. So we got that loop out. And now we're going to weave in our starting thread. And like I said, you can make it extra long and then use it to sew your squares together, which I'm going to do in another video. But for now, I just wanted to give you the basics on how to create a, continuous weaving of a square. So now to sew this in, what you want to do is you want to go underneath the first 2 strands, under 2, and then do your over, under, over, under, over, under. See, I went underneath the first 2, and then I just proceeded on with the regular over, under weaving. And then getting to almost the end, didn't quite go to the very, very end, but to the almost end, I just push my needle all the way through. Again, holding onto my loops so that they don't go astray. Now, when you are pulling through, you don't want to pull this one too tight, because if you do, your work is going to pucker, which you can fix later, but it's a lot easier to get it right the first time. So as you can see, I'm just pulling this and stopping right there. You don't want to go too much further, otherwise it'll pucker inwards and it's not fun. All right, and then here comes the really fun part. What you're going to do is you're going to push your work up. Push, 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 push. Now, if you were doing this on the Zoom Loom, it comes right off. However, with the Skipper Loom, you've got these little heads at the top. That is okay. All you have to do, I found what works best is with my thumb, just sort of scooching. It's almost like a little musical instrument. Just sort of scooching the threads over the heads of the nails. Comes right off. And I like to do two sides first in this fashion. And then on the second two sides, carefully, just sort of scooching the work off of the nail heads. Ta-da! And we have ourselves a finished square. All right, and then all you would need to do at this point is this end here, the short end, which we wove through, you can snip that off. Be very careful not to snip your weaving. And there you go. And then you can use this nice long tail for sewing your squares together. It's as easy as that. And it's a lot of fun. Okay, noisy neighbors honking their horns. It's a lot of fun. These are really, really quick, much quicker if you're working on your lap than holding it up. Again, I'm sorry, but I really wanted to show you how to do this, and you know, it's so much fun. I really love it. And if you like the video, please hit the little thumbs up. If you didn't like it because I'm shaky and I'm a hot mess, I'm sorry, but I'm doing the best I can. And you know, if you have any questions, comments, what have you, please do so in the comments section down below. And if you haven't hit the subscribe button already, please do so as well, because I do try to post videos as often as I can, and that way you'll be in the know. Now, if this isn't quite what you were expecting, because there's a myriad of different looms on the market. This one is for weaving. Now, I know that there are also circular looms and flat looms for loom knitting. That's a completely different animal, which I would like to get into at some point. We shall see. But this is for loom weaving, not loom knitting. There is a difference. You know, but this is yet, you know, another aspect of working with yarn, and it's so much fun that I'm so glad that I could share it with all of you. So listen, my dears, until next time, I want you all to stay inspired, stay caffeinated, and above all, stay stitching. I love you guys, and I will see you in my next video. Bye for now.